Hello and welcome to Battle Guide Virtual Tours, a brand new way of sharing some of the most incredible locations throughout history with you, but from the comfort of your own home. Now, as you might imagine with a virtual tour of this kind, there have been plenty of questions, including what does a virtual tour look like? Now, the idea behind this short demonstration is to give you a quick glimpse into what you might expect to find if you join us on a virtual tour on the ground. And in order to tell this story, I've picked a fascinating location across the battlefield, in this case in the Somme region of France, and we're turning the clock back to 1916 to give you a glimpse of what a famous part of this famous battle entails. Now we're heading down now into the outskirts of the village of Beaumont Hamel, and as you can see here, we've marked up the lines that stood here in 1916, with the blue line representing the British frontline positions and the complex of German red lines outside Beaumont Hamel marking the German lines within that region. They're seen in red. Now let's head down and get a closer look at the battlefield. And as you can see here, topography is a really key part. The geography of the battlefield is really important when it comes to understanding this particular action. And you can see running through the centre of the screen this clear road heading in between the two lines, which runs inside a valley. You can see on the right hand side leading up the hill there the Hawthorn crater, or the Hawthorn redoubt I should say, and on the left hand side a German position known as the Bergwerk. These are going to be really key in the battle to come. And as we move down onto ground level, you start to get an appreciation of what it looks like in real time on the ground, including, as we can see here, the German line as we watch it running along the front of this tree line across the road up the hill towards that stand of trees which marks the famous position of the Hawthorn redoubt itself. Now we can head down onto the battlefield and give you an idea of what it's like to be literally on the ground, as we use the latest in technology to head down the road and walk across that 400 meters of no man's land, picking out some of the key features as we go, including off to our left here this position known as the Sunken Lane, which plays such a crucial part in the battle to come, and even off to the right up that hill the dominating position of the Hawthorn redoubt itself. And it's to that spot that we can now turn. Instead of walking up the road, we can fly there virtually, and we can get an example and a view of what it was like and understand why this was such an important location back in 1916, as we have a look at certain key locations such as the Sunken Lane in view here, and even back towards the British frontline positions down by White City, the Tenderloin and King Street off in the distance. Now we can of course skip across the battlefield too, heading from the Hawthorn redoubt over towards the Bergwerk, and get an idea of why this is such a key location and talk about things such as enfilade fire. Now this is only a 5-minute demo, so we're not going to go into that level of detail, but on a standard 1-hour tour it's exactly what we would be doing, of course led by a specialist trained battlefield guide alongside a tour manager. And as you can see here, we've brought in some historic imagery, in this case the great photograph here taken in a trench in 1916, and we could talk about things such as trench routine, trench construction, how it played an important part in the battle to come. Spinning back around the battlefield now, we can explore all kinds of elements, including subterranean features. As you can see, the black line here running towards the Hawthorn redoubt was actually the site, beginning at Pilk Street in the British positions, of an underground tunnel which was used to plant a huge mine underneath the redoubt itself in the early months of 1916. And we can turn now using modern drone technology alongside the oral testimony of one of the veterans themselves who was in this spot in 1916 digging that tunnel, and hear what they have to say.
By the end of May, the gallery had been driven out over 900 feet and was giving considerable trouble on account of the hardness of the chalk and the large amounts of flints in the face. From this point, only 150 feet from the enemy, it was essential that the work should proceed silently, and in order to facilitate this, the face was drenched with water to soften it, and the chalk and flint prized out with the bayonet, the lumps being caught by the hand to prevent them falling on the floor with a thud, and so disclosing our position. In due course, the drive reached its objective, and the chamber was constructed. Into this was loaded a charge of 40,600 pounds of ammonal. All was in readiness for zero.
Now, a fascinating way to explore the battlefields by flying drone directly over the route taken by those miners during that time, and also to look underground with modern imagery such as this to actually see what those exact tunnels look like. It really is a great way of bringing this history to life. And of course, there's much more that we can do when it comes to this story, including exploring other aspects of the battle, such as the men themselves that are involved. In this case, the 1st Battalion Lancashire Fusiliers, alongside this man here, Major Meredith Magniac, who was also a key person involved in the assault that morning. Now, by heading back down towards the battlefield, we can also explore the idea of then and now shots, including this famous one from the junction between King Street and White City, and the men of the Lancashire Fusiliers who were captured here just a couple of days before the assault went in. And by following the battlefield, we can even bring in new aspects that you wouldn't see on the ground, such as this amazing satellite shot, which shows the ghost of a Russian sap which ran here, linking the British front line with the famous sunken lane in preparation for the launch of that offensive. We can follow that exact route, and we can do it with the help of some of the historical characters here, such as this man Geoffrey Malins, who was a cinematographer who's made his way into the sunken lane on the morning about 6:30, about an hour before the assault, and was to capture some of the most famous footage of the Great War. We can look using 360-degree cameras to explore around the battlefield and to have a look and line up that famous shot with exactly the one that Malins took that morning. And you can see it here, of course, that famous footage taken shortly before the assault began. Now, following in the footsteps of Malins, we can trace our way back along the positions through the Russian sap and to this location here, which is where Geoffrey Malins returned to, and he arrived and set up here for about 7:20 that morning, because he was planning to pan his camera around, look towards the German positions, particularly focusing towards that dominant Hawthorne redoubt up on the ridge there. And he was lined up here because he knew at 7:20 there was going to be this famous explosion, which is captured on film by himself and stands testament to the destruction and the power of the Great War to this day. Of course, less than 10 minutes later, the whistles were blown and the assault was to begin, and it's to those very men now that we can turn in order to finish this short demonstration, and to the words, in fact, of one of those men that went over the top, once again paired up with modern drone technology, to let us walk virtually in the footsteps of Corporal George Ashurst as he assaulted from this position towards the German lines we see in the distance there, marked out in red. Let's hear, in the words of George Ashurst, what he experienced going over the top at 7:30 AM on the 1st of July 1916. It's time to go over the top. It was partly blown down and I'm just stepping on top. There was a corporal lying there, gone, all blown away. I think he'd been hit by a whiz bang. He looks up at me as I pass him. Go on, Corporal, get the bastards. There were bullets everywhere. Run. That was the only thing in my mind. Run and dodge. Expecting at any second to get hit, to feel a bullet hit me. I was zigzagging, holding my head down so that a bullet would hit my tin hat. I seemed to be dodging between them. I must have been to get there. There was gun smoke. You could hear when a bullet hit somebody. You could literally hear it hit him. Hear him groan and go down. It was mainly machine guns that cut us up. I was thinking, I've got to get forward. That's all. I dived into the sunken road. Picking myself up and looking around, my God, what a sight. The whole road was strewn with dead and dying men. Now, incredibly powerful words from Corporal George Ashurst there, who was one of those men to assault that morning when the Lancashire Fusiliers lost so heavily outside this village. And it's stories like his that for any of us who enjoy visiting battlefields is one of those that are truly an honour and a privilege to be able to share, whether it's in person or whether it's using new technology such as virtual tours. It's still an incredibly powerful and emotive thing to do, and we're very proud to be able to share those stories with you. As I say, our team of guides and tour managers work together in a pair. I'm demonstrating this by myself, but ordinarily I would have a qualified and equally passionate guide standing beside us, sharing those stories with you. And the idea is that these are entirely interactive. This is a live tour, so you're very welcome to join in with us, to share your own experience stories, ask questions, and we can free flow around the battlefield, exploring different elements. We're not constrained by distance or by time in order to share these stories, and so it's a wonderful way to share some very powerful and important moments from history with you guys. So, as I say, this is just a quick demonstration. There's so much more to see, so much more to share. But I hope that this has given you a glimpse of what there is available on the ground and how we can harness the best of modern technology and share that with the best of traditional battlefield guiding to really bring these stories to life. And we very much look forward to seeing you on the ground again soon.